Hi and welcome. My name is Julianne Kost, and in today's episode of The Complete Picture, we're going to take a look at how we can clip a photograph into a shape. Now, that shape can be a shape that you've created with one of the shape tools, it can be a shape that you've drawn with a pen tool, or it can even be type. So we're going to take a look at 3 different ways to do this, and the reason that we're looking at more than one way is because each one of them offers kind of a different amount of flexibility. Now, the easiest way to do this would probably be to convert your background into a layer, and we can do that by just holding down the Option or the Alt key and double-clicking on the background. That actually converts the background into a layer without bringing up that dialog box to rename it, because you can always rename your layers later. Now that this is a layer, if we choose Layer and then Vector Mask and Reveal All, that will add a vector mask. I know it looks like a regular mask, like a layer mask, but this is actually a vector mask. Now, if I choose my shape tool, and in this case, I'm going to choose my custom shape tool, and we'll go up here and select a shape. Now, I have a lot of shapes loaded because I've used the little gear icon here in the flyout in order to load all of my shapes. So that's how I was able to select this snowflake shape that I have. All right, once I've got my shape selected, I need to make sure over on the left-hand side that I'm simply creating a path. If I choose shape, it will create a shape layer. I don't want a new shape layer right now because that would create a new layer and I've already got my vector mask created. All I want Photoshop to do is to create a path in this vector mask. So now when I click and drag out with my shape, and if I hold down the Shift key, it will constrain that shape. And when I let go, you can see that that vector mask is masking the photo so that it only shows up within the shape. So now we can continue on and maybe add something like a drop shadow and scoot that drop shadow out of the way a little and maybe change the size a bit. And that's really the first way that you can kind of clip or reveal a photograph within a shape. But there's another way that I want to show you now that has a little bit more flexibility. So let's go ahead and I'm going to throw away the vector mask by dragging it into the trash can and clicking OK. Now we still have this layer with the drop shadow, but what I want to do is instead of creating a path, I want to create a shape layer. Now when I click and drag out my shape layer, it's simply going to fill it with the default here. It might add a stroke. Of course, we can come in and change that. We can either, add a stroke if you want to, or you can just say no stroke. That's up to you. But now what I need to do is I need to clip this layer with the shape. So I can't do it as the layers are right now. What I need to do is I need to move layer 0, the photograph, above the shape layer. So now that that's repositioned in the layers panel, then I'll choose Layer and then create clipping mask. And when I do that, you can see now that my photograph is being clipped, or it's only showing up or being displayed inside the shape. If you do it this way, you'll want to be sure to drag your effects down to your shape layer then in order to get that nice soft drop shadow. Now, this looks very similar to what we did a moment ago, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a duplicate of layer 0, the photograph. I'm just going to hold down the Option or the Alt key and drag that copy below the shape layer. And then what we can do is just change maybe the opacity on that layer. I tap the V key to get the Move tool, and then I'll tap the 5 key so that we get kind of a screened back look on the image behind the one that we've clipped. So just kind of a secondary alternative. You could also do that with the shape and the vector mask that we did a minute ago, but some people prefer to do it this way. I'm going to show you one last way to do this. Again, it's just up to you as far as personal preference goes, how you want to create this effect. But this last technique involves using your photograph as one layer, and then grabbing your shape layer again. So I'll tap the U key to get my shape tool. And this time I'm going to create a shape layer just like we did a moment ago. And I'll click and drag out one, and then we can click and drag out another one. So I'm making multiple shape layers here, and by making multiple shape layers, it just makes it really easy for me to move around these objects. So with each shape on its own layer, in the Layers panel, I'll select all of the shapes, use Command or Control G in order to group those, And then in Photoshop CS6, we can go ahead and move the photograph above the group and then clip it by choosing Layer and then Create Clipping Mask or Command-Shift-G. So now we've got a number of shape layers, and if we select one of these shape layers, we can then use our Move tool in order to move around that shape and reposition it and do everything independently of the other shapes. Now obviously with a vector mask you could do that same thing and have multiple shapes on a vector mask, but you might want the added flexibility of doing it this way because let's say, for example, you might want to change the opacity of some of the shape layers, or you might want to add a stroke to them, or you might want to add a different effect on one shape than you do on the other. Excellent. Well, there you have it. There's 3 different ways that you can clip a photograph to a shape in Photoshop. My name's Julianne Koss. Thanks for watching.